So the San Antonio Spurs have won 2 games in a row, and I am not here to talk about a 2-game winning streak. And I know this is going to be another video about Victor Wembanyama, although really it's only been the first one in like a month. But I still have to talk about who is now the Rookie of the Year. I think it's pretty locked up. Victor's going to win Rookie of the Year. Sorry, Thunder fans. Sorry, Chet Holmgren. But that award is locked up. But Victor Wembanyama is more than what the hype was coming into the draft. And this was hype building up for a few years because Victor got on a lot of hardcore basketball fans' radar like 3 years ago or 4 years ago when that viral video dropped of a 16-year-old Wemby dropping buckets on Rudy Gobert in practice. But I simply just want to say that, and also get off a little bit of a, not a hot take, but just something that I've been thinking about. This is the last year I think the Spurs are going to suck. Meaning, at the very least, next season, the Spurs are going to make the play-in tournament. And I feel pretty good about that. And that's all because of number one in San Antonio. Victor Wembanyama has been absolutely ridiculous since the new year started, really since he got moved to center on December 8th against the Chicago Bulls at home. And really throughout this year, Victor Wembanyama has just gotten better and better. There was flashes of dominant play, and now it's just become consistent in a very short amount of time. And that is terrifying. So let me read off some numbers for you since Victor Wembanyama moved to center on December 8th. These are his averages since then. In 36 games, in 28 minutes per game, by the way, because Victor is on a minutes restriction, Wembanyama is now averaging, since December 8th, 22 points a game, 10.5 rebounds a game, nearly 4 assists per game, nearly 1.5 steals per game at 1.3, and 3.8 blocks per game on 49% shooting and 37% from 3. Those are just staggering numbers for a rookie. You mean to tell me this is the worst Victor Wembanyama is going to be? And then we'll condense it to his last 25 games. Nearly 50% shooting from the field, this is 49.5%, 38% from 3 on 5 attempts per game, 23 points a game, 10.5 rebounds a game, over 4 assists per game, 1.4 steals per game, 3.6 blocks per game. Then go all the way down to his last 8 games, the last few weeks where he has just really put everybody on notice. 24.6 points per game, 11.8 rebounds per game, over 5 assists per game, nearly 2.5 steals per game, 5.4 blocks per game, on 50.7 shooting from the field, and 42.2% from 3 on nearly 6 attempts per game. And he's a +6 during that time. This guy is dominating already. If you guys saw the victory the Spurs had over the Oklahoma City Thunder, it was just, that last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter was just special. Hitting threes, contested threes, hitting wraparound passes to Trey Jones on the right wing for a 3 while the shot clock's winding down. Getting a few ridiculous blocks on Chet Holmgren and SGA during the game. Big time threes. Ultra competitive nature. You could just tell it jumps right off the screen just how competitive this dude is. Turning around to the bench after he blocks Chet Holmgren. Kind of like a, yeah, this guy can't fuck with me type of, energy when he turned around to his teammates after that block. And then after the game, I by the way, I love that Victor Wembanyama just cusses on live TV. That's just very endearing for me personally. But rallying up the crowd, saying, "Go Spurs, go." You could tell he embraces this shit. And that's the type of stuff that takes a special talent and molds him into a special player. When those two things mix together, the competitive drive, the work ethic, and obviously the talent. And then they turn right around and get a nice victory over the Indiana Pacers, a team that is low-key not playing as crisply since Halliburton got that hamstring injury. But the Spurs were able to basically dominate the Pacers, especially in the fourth quarter. This is the last year the Spurs are going to be bad. They have now found an outline of an offensive identity, or at least an outline of how to build this team out around Wembanyama, especially since inserting Tre Jones into the starting lineup. The combination of Tre Jones, Devin Vassell, and Victor Wembanyama on the court together, that three-man lineup has a plus 11.5 net rating, a 117.4 offensive rating, and a 105.9 defensive rating. So the Spurs have found a combination, one, that works, two, gives them an idea of how to build out their team in the future to, pull out all of Victor's talents and get the best out of him. Three, gives them a lineup combination that shows you that Victor is ready to win now. And another reason why I think the Spurs are not going to be bad next year is just based on the history of high-level prospects like this that come into the NBA, whether it be someone like, LeBron or someone like Shaq. Think of any high-level prospect that was projected to be, an all-time great player, like Victor Wembanyama was projected to be one of the best players of all time. And now that he's lived up to the hype, just think about those past prospects that I've said and think about how long it took for them to bring their team to the playoffs. LeBron made it to the playoffs for the first time in his career by his third year. Shaquille O'Neal obviously missed the playoffs with the Magic his rookie year, and then his second year, the very next year, took his team to the playoffs where they got swept. Just look at any Hall of Famer's career and see how fast it took them to bring their team to the playoffs, and that's my point. I don't think the Spurs are going to suck for much longer. I think they're going to be fighting for a play-in spot next year. I think this summer's going to be really interesting for the Spurs because this Trae Young smoke, what started as rumors to me at first, I thought it was just kind of the internet being the internet, but when news reporters, big-time news breakers, reporters like Zach Lowe, for example, mention on the podcast that the Trae Young to San Antonio thing is, not real, but he thinks the Spurs are looking into it, then I pay attention a little bit. And so this summer is going to be really interesting. Even if they don't get Trae Young, they're going to have a top 5 lottery pick. They're going to have a lot of cap space. They already have their 2 players of the future with Wembanyama and now Devin Vassell. You have that guard to pair with, your future all-time great big man. A lot of people project the Spurs to have anywhere between $20 to $26 million in cap space. That is also not just some little thing. That's something right there. So if they could get, 1 or 2 wings to put on this team, the Spurs will be in business. By the way, for all the people who were, really pissed off that the Spurs spent, the first 20 games of the season trying out Jeremy Sohan at point guard, and we're just sick of Jeremy Sohan. Jeremy Sohan's been playing really well since being put to power forward, which I think was part of the plan anyway, was to get him playmaking reps at point guard because he was eventually going to move back to power forward because I think that's his best position next to Wembanyama, which was my point when I made that video that I was fine with the Jeremy Sohan point guard experiment, or one of my main points. The Spurs have seemed to figure out some stuff. They were experimenting a lot early in the season, and now they have locked down some things, and they have found out some things with, lineup combinations and what players work around Wembanyama and what players don't. And next year, shit's going to start getting real. They have a talent that is good now, and I think the Spurs are going to move in a way that will do right by their player, because this kid deserves to be in a winning environment like the playoffs, and I think that's going to start next year.